Hey everybody, this is Dust for Dust on Gaming with match number 5 of episode 4 here with Modern Burn. Mike Flores is Rakdos this with some interesting sideboard inclusions from his PTQ a couple weekends ago. As a friendly reminder, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, giving us a thumbs up, and commenting down below. Alright, so this has been a bit of a rough league, but I think this league has definitely illustrated some of the issues with Rakdos. These light up the stages and Skewer the Critics can definitely get stuck in your hand if you're not hitting your land drops and such. So, but anyways, we'll get into that when the wrap up after the match here. So, this build's not too different than a lot of the Rakdos builds running around. Grim Lavamancer, Swift Spear, Goblin Guide, Eidolon is your creature base. Help setting up the Spectacle cards and light up the stage and Skewer the Critics. Then you have a bunch of one-drop spells like Bump of the Night, Lava Spike, Lightning Bolt, Rift Bolt. To be able to get spells out of your hand, continue to chain your Spectacle cards, and then Searing Blaze to help deal with creatures. Sideboard, copies of Thoughtseize to disrupt various opponents, even from like our Tron opponent last round. Could have been disruptive, could have been useful grabbing their Wormcoil Engine or stopping their way to assemble Tron if they didn't have a natural Tron. Good against disruption decks like Storm, good against potentially controlled, punch holes in their hand. Collective Brutality serves a lot of the same purpose as a pseudo duress, plus also able to disrupt killing smaller creatures, can gain some life in the burn mirror, etc. Fatal Push and Searing Blood are against creature decks. Obviously, Fatal Push good against things like Goyf, Thought Knot Seer, and Shadow. Searing Blood good against smaller creatures like Mana Dorks, Elves. Lots of creatures out of Counters Company, etc. So, interesting sideboard. Can't say I'm a terrible fan of this build of the deck, but got one more match here to kind of change our mind a little bit. One thing I will say, it's a comment someone, sorry, it's a comment someone brought up in one of the videos a couple days ago, was the fact of a lot of these decks seem to be having issues with sometimes being overloaded on Spectacle cards, not having the greatest ability to always cast, and these Spectacle cards really can be a cost. It's not impossible to beat some of these cards or cast these cards, for 3 mana or whatever. But there are some issues there are some deck building costs with playing all these Spectacle cards. So, we haven't been running the best Archgaze, so I know what this playa is on. They are on the 3-color nonsense. Oh, he's on something different this time. Alright. So I guess I lead on Goblin God. Chalice the Void, delightful. So I'm gonna get Chalice next turn and hate our lives. Yep. Seriously? Obviously Bump's a dead draw here. Most of our decks are dead draw here. Going to 6. I think Riftbolt and Searing Blood are our best outs here. No blocks. I mean, if they have Reality Smasher, they have Reality Smasher here. So some type of... This player's always running Crazy Brews. For a long time they were running that Cragstone Cremator, sure. Combo deck. Alright, let's go to the next game. It's just been the kind of league it's been. Alright, so I guess we bring in Thoughtseize and Fatal Push? It feels bad to play in a Chalice, but we really have no other way to play around Chalice other than Thoughtseize itself. Eidolon's not usually fantastic in the... Actually, Lavamancer might be fine. Searing Blazes aren't great, but they also have a lot of cards that are... vulnerable to it, and Lodestone Golem and Matter Reshaper. Guess I'd like to play first. And definitely want to get Goblin Guy down here. Start pressuring our opponent. Hopefully blow up them having a Chalice. The Veil's kind of whatever. Thoughtseize our opponent here. Shadow of Doubt, Leon of the Veil, Fulminator Mage, Endless One. I mean, sweet promos, but they're not going to do you a whole lot of good here. Let's clear that out of the way, force you to blow up a land. Sure. Some type of really bad land destruction, Chalice of the Void nonsense concoction. And now it doesn't even matter if I... Alright, and opponent scoops. Is Eidolon just better than I give it credit for in this matchup? Opponent has a glut of 3-drops. Still think we'll roll with this. Feels like Eidolon's a little too slow and ineffective in this matchup. Yeah, Sand's fine. As long as we don't get Chaliced on 1, we're good. Or Chaliced on 2, I should say. Do I cast Thoughtseize or do I cast Goblin Guide here? I think we Thoughtseize, because if they have Chalice, we're not doing anything this game. I mean, Liliana's annoying, but it's also kind of whatever here. I have Shadow of Doubt this turn, but in the end, it really doesn't matter. Lily of the Veil's kind of annoying. Did actually mean to attack Liliana there. Lily the Last Hope's just gonna get to kill this card. I meant to knock Liliana of the Veil off the table here. To fit our deck a little bit. Obviously, a Chalice here could be annoying. Hit a Lodestone Golem, a little bit lucky there. And bump you. Alright, so 2 and 3 here in the wrap up. How do I put this? So, I'm not a huge fan of a good bit of what's going on with the sideboard. I think Thoughtseize is a little almost too conditional in burn. I think Thoughtseize and Brutality is too much. I think there might be some consideration for like running 2 Thoughtseize, 4 Thoughtseize in a burn sideboard, but I honestly think this sideboard's too simplistic. Like, you want Leyline of the Voids, or Rakdos Charms, or Smash to Smithereens, some way to blow through Chalice, because this version of the deck is a little bit more vulnerable to Chalice than Boros was. I think that's almost too many answers to creatures, and as you see, like, most of our sideboard was dead in most of these matchups. So I'm not a huge fan of this thing unless you can, like, predict the matchups correctly to where these sideboard choices make sense. But on the whole, as an archetype, there honestly is a cost to playing Lay Up the Stage and Skewer the Critics. I'm a fan. I honestly think I'm beginning to be a bigger fan of Lay Up the Stage than I am Skewer the Critics. I think they're both cards. I think good cards. I think they're both worthy of inclusion in some styles of burn lists. But I'm honestly wondering if the card Burn Once more than Skewer is actually Light Up the Stage. Like, so one of the issues with burn, at least the traditional, going back a month or so, the traditional Boros list was the fact that you'd run out of gas, you'd flood, you'd die, or you get stuck on lands and die. I think Light Up the Stage helps mitigate that, and I don't know that Skewer the Critics actually helps mitigate that. I think if you want a more efficient and ability to chain off, Rakdos is better, but you're still running the risk of, if your opponent can disrupt you, take your 1 damage spell or kill your 1 drop, then sometimes you just can't trigger Skewer the Critics and Light Up the Stage. The Tron matchup was a bit of a fluke. Obviously, I didn't keep the best of hands in Game 1, or Game 2. Game 1, I got locked out by my own Eidolon. Maybe I should have attacked, trying to set up lethal there. The Rock matchup's just rough. The Eldrazi matchup was a little bit off the wall, but I think that's been a rough matchup in the past for Burn, or a close matchup. And then Storm, obviously Storm's a pretty good matchup. I don't know. Deck just feels like I'm not a huge fan of these Rakdos builds. I'm just not. Like, this is the second time we've played a Rakdos build. I think I've actually played it a couple other times in some of the other earlier testing that wasn't specifically these leagues, but I don't know. The Rakdos build has felt more efficient, but yet, I don't know, it doesn't feel like quite doing what we want to do. And even in the past when I played Rakdos, I wasn't a huge fan of the archetype. So, take my recommendations with a grain of salt. If you love the deck, continue playing it. But I don't feel like this version of Burn is set up the best, especially as people are starting to, start main decking Chalice of the Voids again. This version gets a lot worse. And with the 3 top decks in the winner's circle on MTG Goldfish, you're looking at Phoenix decks, Death Shadow decks, and Burn. And that means people are starting to bring Chalices to the table. I know a buddy of mine likes to play Eldrazi decks. He played Etron the other day to some success. We played against Archgaze, playing that mono black, whatever land destruction nonsense that was. And then we've run into Chalice out of the Time Walk deck. So, you know, it's really either you need to start diversifying your threats, or you need to run Shatter effects in the graveyard, in the sideboard. Either Smash the Smithereens, Rakdos Charm, Wear Tear. I think we're getting back to the point again where you're going to have to run Wear Tear in Boros, and or Destructive Revelry if you happen to have the green splash, and you're going to have to run Smash or Rakdos Charm in the Rakdos builds. But anywho, this has been Dust for Dust on Gaming with episode 4, match number 5, and a short wrap-up segment. Hope you're all having a great day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.